Hey everyone, it's Chris from Smithy Fitness. Welcome back to my channel. Good to see you. You know, I've made about 105 videos so far, but this one today, this one is by far the most important one. And without exaggeration, this might save your life. Not today or tomorrow, but in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So try to hang in to the end. I'm going to go through this as fast as I can, hopefully 10 minutes or so. So we're going to talk about iron today. And the title of this is Iron, the Silent Killer. And this is from a book by P.D. Mangan called Dumping Iron. Nice play on pumping iron, which we do. This is dumping iron. And I put here aging and disease. Are you ready? Are you ready to learn this? And I'll tell you, I wasn't at first. It took me a year or two. I'd heard a little echo here and there on Twitter about why you should have lower iron and why you should donate blood. We'll talk about that a lot during the course of this. But I wasn't quite ready to absorb the information. And then about 3 months ago, I bought the book, and then it sat on my shelf for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And finally, I opened it, and boy, did it open my eyes. So let's go through some of the important salient parts. Remember, I'm just a guy on the internet. I read a book. I want to share the knowledge with you. I want us to be strong and healthy and amazing and well into old age. And I think this is a key component. In fact, I'm going to say that if you're eating properly and you're working out regularly and you're not drinking a lot of alcohol and you don't smoke, but you don't take control of your iron, it might all be for naught. It's crazy. So let's talk about it. So excess iron in the body causes or exacerbates all these diseases: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, sarcopenia, which is basically when you're losing all your muscle mass, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, osteoporosis, liver and kidney disease, macular degeneration, and gout, and pretty much all diseases seem to have some connection. The higher your iron is, the greater the probability that you will come down with these diseases. And there's been quite a few studies done on it, and we'll go over some of those as well. So why do we have this excess, though? It doesn't seem to make sense. The human body is amazing. We tend to be able to regulate our systems very, very well. But what happened is that iron in the old days, in the evolutionary times, thousands of years ago, iron was very difficult for man to get into his system, man and woman, to get into their systems. And therefore, anytime you got some iron in you, the body learned to hold on to it. And hold on to it for dear life, because if you're very, very low on iron, that's a huge problem too. But nowadays, it's so easy to get our iron that we are way elevated. So what happened is that we're holding this iron, and then over time, we keep accumulating more and more iron in the system. And the levels keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. And really, it's very difficult to get rid of it, except through blood donation. There's a few other ways, but they're not nearly as effective. Anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So over time, we've got way too much iron, and it's everywhere now. Food is fortified, your shreddies in the morning. I can remember growing up and it was all, oh, it's iron fortified, as if this is a great thing. If you're taking a multi, they almost all have iron in them. Some of them have copper as well. P.D. Mangan recommends not taking a multi, and I've stopped for sure. No more multis. Doctors are ignorant of iron. It's sort of a new thing that's come to light over the past 20 years or so. Few doctors out there, a few labs have done the work, and Mangan put it together with great number of studies to show that there's a huge correlation between the high iron and disease, and he goes into great detail about how that happens. So doctors are ignorant of it, and we'll see that in a little while when we see the range of ferritin, which is the measurement of iron in your system. But I don't want to get ahead again. So let's go through a few of the studies. If you have high ferritin, you're going to have a lot of disease. And it affects men much more than women. In fact, by age 45, a man will have 4 times more iron than women. And it's because of the menstrual cycle. Women are lucky, you girls are lucky, I know you don't look at it that way, but you've been able to shed the excess iron every month for all your life up until menopause, up until age 45 or whatever. And of course, us guys were holding on to it. Now, in the old days, there would be battles and cuts and scrapes, and life was tough, so bleeding happened, and there would be a little bit of bloodletting just through normal life, but also we didn't live as long, and it didn't become as much of a problem as now. It's sort of it's the disease of old age is really caused by this high iron. So here's a study done. This is the Copenhagen City Heart Study. They measured ferritin. If it's greater than 600, it's nanograms per milliliter, but just don't worry about that. If your ferritin's greater than 600, the median age is 55 years old. In other words, you're dead by 55. If your ferritin's a little lower, 400 to 599, you'll make it to 72 on average. 200 to 399, you'll make it to 76. If it's less than 200, you'll make it to 79. Now, this study didn't go any lower. They didn't go, well, what if you're less than 100, or what if you're less than 50? But Mangan says, he's got his level should be around 50 somewhere. If we got that low, that's when we start looking at 100 years old or thereabouts. Now, that's a bit of speculation on my part, but I have a reason for that, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. So that's one study. Second one was the Taiwan study. Men at the high end of the range had 3 times the cancer than men at the low end of the range. So let's talk about the range. Here's your normal ferritin range as dictated or suggested by the Mayo Clinic. So for women, it's a measurement of 11 to 307. And for men, it's 24 to 336. Now, this is a ridiculously wide range, and they call it normal because they take the iron levels of 10,000 people and they come up with this vast range. But it's not optimal. It's just kind of the normal range. So if you came in with a 300 level, your doctor would say, "Oh, you're fine. You're within the range. It's no problem." They probably won't flag it until you're 350, 400, maybe even 500. Which is a very high level. So you can't just depend on your doctor to tell you about it. The doctors just really aren't aware of this. They've kind of believed that cholesterol is the big problem with heart disease, and it almost seems as though cancer is just caused by luck or bad luck. But again, these studies are indicating that the high iron is a real problem. Now, I've read the book. I spent 20 hours over this past weekend going through it and making notes. And there's a lot of science that talks about the free iron in the system that binds to other molecules and causes free radicals and big problems, okay? So I won't get into the science. I think I just butchered that a little bit. But again, read the book and get all the details. So here we go, 11 to 307 for women, 24 to 336 for men. Mangan says ideal for women would be 20 to 40, and for men would be 50 to 70, but you could actually be a bit lower here. You just don't want to get so low that you're anemic. But that's really tough to do to get to that anemic level. So really the low iron almost never happens in our society. And yet we're still fortifying food. I think a lot of bread, I think it's even a law that it's fortified with iron. So it's really a bad problem for us, and we just keep adding iron to our systems. So again, what's the solution? How do we solve this? Well, there's a few ways, but by far the most rigorous way to get rid of your iron, to dump your iron, is through donating blood. The other ways are small. You can take you can take an aspirin every day. An aspirin causes a little bit of bleeding in the intestinal walls. Not much, a little bit. So if you took an aspirin every day for 5 years, you might make a dent in your iron. But that's a pretty slow motion and not all that effective. There haven't been a lot of studies on it, so we don't really know. but it does seem to help a little bit. But let's talk about donating blood. Every time you donate blood, your ferritin levels drop by 30 nanograms per milliliter. So if you come in with a 300 level, after your first donation, you're going to get down to 270. Your next donation, you'll get down to 240, maybe 242. Your next donation, you're going to get down to 212, maybe 215 or 220. The amount it decreases the ferritin decreases a little bit with each one. So 30 on the first one, maybe 30 on the second, and then you're 25, 22, 20, and so forth. So once you're down to a good range, say less than 100 or get to Mangan's 50 to 70, all you need to do is give blood 1, maybe 2 times a year, and you're good to go. You can just stay on top of it and kind of cruise. Now look, when I read this book, and I really read it, went into it, I could not book a blood donation clinic fast enough. I'm freaked out by this, frankly. And I've never given blood. I'm 61, never given blood. I sort of have not a fear of needles, but I don't like to see the blood. I've sort of passed out at one point, or nearly passed out in a doctor's office giving a sample at one point. But I'm telling you, I read this and yeah, I couldn't do it fast enough. So in Canada, you can give blood, and probably in the US and probably most cultures, you can give blood every 8 weeks, roughly. So I've now given blood once. My goal is to give blood 12 times over the next 2 years. I'm determined to get it down. Now, I don't know what my ferritin level is, but I do know my hemoglobin level. And the normal level is 140 to 180. I came in at 190. Now, hemoglobin is not anywhere near a perfect read of what your ferritin level is or what your iron level is, but it is an indicator. And the fact that I'm above it really means that I need to step on it. And it makes a lot of sense because I've never given blood, and I haven't been any wars or anything, so I've kept what I've had. So I want to talk about my dad. So my dad, when I was growing up, every 3 months he gave blood, and this went on throughout my entire childhood. He ended up donating over 100 times, I know, because he got some sort of an award for it. He lived to 98. And not only did he live to 98, but in his upper 80s, facially, he had very few wrinkles. He looked fantastic. He really did. He didn't look much different from when he was in his mid-60s. So that's a real life example that I can look at. Now, I've suffered from gout in the past, and it always kind of freaked me out. Why am I getting gout? I'm doing all these things. I'm not drinking a lot. I'm not obese. And I would get gout, and I figured it was sugar, and I still believe that sugar is a problem. But I also believe that the fact that I get gout and that I don't eat much sugar once in a while, and then I get attacked with this gout problem, it's weird, and I suspect it's because my iron is high. I'm probably in the upper range. Again, I don't know, but I'm betting I'm up there somewhere. So my dad never got gout. He never got gout. Why not? I mean, I got it. My oldest brother gets it. He never had any real health problems until much later in life. Now, he stopped donating, I'm going to say it was age 65, and I think we had a rule at that time. I think there was a reason he stopped, that the Red Cross considered 65 and over, or 65 plus, too old to give. There is no such restrictions now. The restrictions come from your hemoglobin. If you're south of 140, they won't take blood from you. But that would only happen if your ferritin levels were very low. So it's sort of a self-correcting thing. So that's my real life example. In Mangan's book, he talks about this guy from Florida who's given blood 315 times. He's 78 now. He's been giving between 4 and 6 times a year since he was 18. I have not seen his picture. He's 78. Mangan says he looks fabulously healthy, looks much younger, looks like a guy in his 60s. And that's what we're talking about, this aging thing. Now, I haven't really talked about that a lot, but they figured that wrinkles come from too much iron, that your gray hair, my gray hair, comes from too much iron. So, I mean, this iron is this silent killer, and we really need to get after it and work on that problem. So, my experience, I had my first donation about a week ago. It took about a month to find a place that was open and not too far from my house. You have to book it, especially with COVID. It's an extra thing. I was nervous, but I was excited because, like I said, I'm anxious to dump blood or to dump iron. And I went in. The people were great. I went from station to station. You have to answer some questions to make sure you haven't been overseas or you haven't had any kind of disease in the last couple of years. So you go through all the questions. Then they take your hemoglobin level. All that is a pinprick in the finger. And so you'll bleed a little bit right here. They'll swab it, put the swab in a machine, and it will spit out your hemoglobin. So again, I was high. High is okay, low is a problem. From there, I was taken to the nurse, very friendly, happy lady. You lay down, and 3, 2, 1. You get a little prick. It's in the big vein. This vein right here is where they got me, and she goes 3, 2, 1. You feel something. It's not much. It's a little something, but it's over. And then away you go. So there's a little fiddling around, but 5 minutes of fiddling around, then you get punctured, and then for me the bleed time was 12 minutes. So you're just sitting in a chair, and I felt nothing. I mean, I'm not looking at it particularly, especially at the beginning, and then you do, and it's nothing. I'm fiddling with my phone. The nurse is singing. I mean, it was quite funny. It was a nice experience. They made me stay for 5 minutes after. Couldn't leave the chair that I gave blood in. They just wanted to make sure I was okay. And then they pushed me to the door and said, there's some snacks over there. You get something if you want. Wait around 5 or 10 minutes before you go. I felt fine. I just left. I grabbed a water and left. The snacks are funny. There's some Oreos and some pretzels and other crap. So wasn't even any fruit there, but I was grateful for the water, and that was it. They do tell you to make sure you've eaten during the day. That's a really good idea, and that you drink lots of water during the day so that you've got volume in your system, and it's done. So, I hope you've hung in to the end of this. This is a huge thing. Buy the book, read it, and I think it can really change your life. I think the last 20 years of your life can be dramatically improved by giving iron. Now, I've got no deal with PD Mangan. I mean, I know him on Twitter. He's a good guy. I respect him, and I listen to what he has to say. He's got other books out there, very knowledgeable. But I don't have a link to an Amazon store or anything. I just think that this is an overlooked way to make sure we stay on top of our health. So look, I'm blabbing a bit now. Thanks a lot for watching. Look, share this, okay? This is really important to your parents, to your friends, to your uncles, and especially for yourself. Let's get on top of it. And of course, it's a win-win. I haven't even talked about that. You imagine the person who's getting my blood. They're gonna do great, and it'd be the same with your blood. We can really make a difference. So again, thanks for watching. Share it around. Subscribe if you haven't, and I appreciate you still being here. And I will see you in the next one.